Well, hello, y'all, and welcome to my YouTube story. My YouTube channel, actually, my stories of my life. My name is Robert Beese. I go by Bob Beese. Can't get a cooler name than that, right? And my stories are called "This Life Hasn't Been So Beesy." Nice little play on words. So yeah, I got a bunch. So just stick with me. I'm gonna be jumping around a lot. I got ADD, OCD, all that shit, and bad language on top to boot. I'm going to start off with Christmas stories. Um, four of my favorites, and then one New Year's Eve story. Even though Christmas and New Year's Eve they're both over. Happy New Year, everyone. So to begin with, I got to tell you a little bit about my father first. He was a horrible man. Um, he never laid a hand on me and my sister. I have a sister that's 2.5 years older, so I'm 48 and she is 51. So to begin, um, he was an alcoholic. Him and my mom were both alcoholics, and I mean, alcoholics, man. Like, you couldn't get him to stop drinking no matter what. And it eventually, my dad shot my mom in the head, and that's the only way she stopped drinking. So we'll get into that later too, though. So my dad would dress up like a woman and get me, my mom, and my sister to follow him around the block while he dressed up as a woman to steal people's mail out of their mailboxes. I mean, who the fuck does that? Sorry. um, so yeah, if a cop came, he could always run behind the house, take off the wig and the dress. I mean, he did, and the whole boots. And I was probably about 8 years old, and well, one year, and me and my sister, we never got many Christmas presents, because my dad and my mom never worked. I don't know how we ate half the time. I'm guessing welfare. Yeah, it's got to be welfare, I think. Um, but yeah, one year he got a credit card through Radio Shack, well, someone else's credit card. So we had all these presents under a tree, and me and my sister looking at each other like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, what's the catch? Well, Christmas night, uh, two cops and the owner of this Radio Shack all came to my house and was like, all right, me and my sister, we had already opened up all these presents. But the owner was like, hey, you guys get to keep one present each. I was like, all right. And there was this Armatron thing, where you could pick up a ball and put it on a pedestal, two little controllers. I'm like, cool, that's what I'm keeping. My sister kept a telephone with the big buttons because she could never like dial a phone and get the right numbers to be the first. So she went with that, thankfully. But yeah, they're like, keep one present each. We're taking the rest, and we're taking your dad to jail. And I jumped up and I was like, best Christmas ever. I mean, this is how bad it was. So yeah, that was pretty cool. My dad was always in and out of jail, prisons, you name it. He was, like I said, he was just a piece of crap. Um, if he found checks in people's mailboxes, he'd go and get food or beer, and then obviously you'd get arrested. But it took a little longer because there wasn't so many cameras back in the 80s as there are now. So yeah, there's that one. Number two. Now in elementary school, I went to school with this girl named Kara, and her family was the richest in the Midwest. Probably still is. Um, but yeah, Kent, her dad, answered the phone once when I called her, and like I could not talk to Kara in school. Like she was popular. I was, when everyone else was wearing Guess jeans, I'm wearing corduroys. Like we were poor, like dog shit poor, and yeah, one year, so I call her up, and outside school, we were friends. Just kind of, couldn't be seen around each other. And I called her up, and her dad answered the phone. And her dad was like, yeah, who is this? And I'm like, oh, it's Bobby. And he's like, okay. And right then, um, I think I was in fourth grade or fifth grade. And he's like, oh, and it was right around Christmas. So he's like, what's one thing that you could get for Christmas that you can't afford? And I'm like, oh my God, the G.I. Joe Cobra base. It's huge. Two levels, a jet popped out the middle. I was like, badass, I want that. So a couple nights go by, and I hear a knock on the door, and I open the door, and I'm like, hello, sir. And he's like, hi, it's Bobby here. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. What's up? who are you? And he's like, Kent. I'm like, okay, who's Kent? Like, I don't know you, dude. And he's like, I'm Kara's dad. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, where's Kara? And right at the front door, uh, it was an apartment building. So to get up the stairs, you had to go around. And I looked around and, hey, there's Kara. Like, hey, I don't want to be seen right now. You know, this is embarrassing. But he gave my mom this ham. And this ham was massive. Like, you had to double arm grab the thing. Gave my sister a brand new jacket. You know, none of this was wrapped except for this one big box. And I'm like, what is this box? And he's like, you can't open it till Christmas morning. I'm like, well, this is horse shit. They got theirs. You know, I want mine. But no, not happening. So Christmas morning, I open it and it's a GI Joe Cobra base, and I'm like, this is so badass, dude. Thank you so much. So I called him right away, and he teared up and had to put his wife on the phone, and they invited us out to this dinner at their house for Christmas, you know, and all that. But my family was like, no, we're not going because that's embarrassing, and you know, we are poor. They're rich. Leave them alone. Fine, whatever. So there was that one. Uh, number three, I worked for this pizza joint. You know, they didn't deliver, so you probably know what pizza joint I'm talking about. You know, pizza. You know, yeah. So we had a big Christmas party down in Rockford. It was about an hour and a half from where I lived. Where it was a black tie event. You know, girls had to wear the nicest dresses and all that. And I'm 16, and you know, we're all having a good time. They've got a big radio station playing Christmas music and all that, which I've never liked Christmas music ever. So, um, you know, we all sit down and go to eat, and this black girl comes up and she's like, "Hey, do you want to dance?" And she's beautiful. I'm like, "Wait," and I'm looking around like, "You can't be talking to me." Everyone's like, "Yeah, Bob, go dance with her, man." I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go dance with her, and we're dancing, and she's like, "You know what? You're too heavy on your feet. Come here and follow me." I'm like, okay, let's go then. You know, and so, you know, we're walking down the hallway and she goes into the men's bathroom and I stop and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, that's not really happening. You know, and I look up and I'm like, yeah, it says men's. So I go in and I'm like looking around like, where is she? And she's getting undressed in the toilet, you know, or not in the toilet, but, you know, in the stall. And I come in, I'm like, oh, okay, this is getting interesting. And she grabs me and, you know, turns me around, throws me on the toilet, pulls my pants down, and, you know, gets up on me and starts riding me. You know, I'm like, oh my God, you know, like, this is, like, honestly the second time I've only had sex. So I don't even know what to do. I'm just like, okay, this is really happening though. Cool. And then it gets interesting. She grabs my head and starts slamming it off both sides of the stall and then off the back of the toilet. And I'm like, what the, you know, what's going on? Stop it. And, you know, like, I instantly lost all wood, you know, all wood that I had. So she gets up, gives me a kiss on the cheek, and she's like, thanks, darling. Love you. And walks out. And I literally sat there on that toilet for like 20 minutes. And when I came out, everyone's like, wow, where'd you go? And I couldn't answer them. I was like, no, I'm not seeing shit. So yeah, I know, kind of interesting story, right? I told you I'll keep you interested, man, and women. But yeah, so now number four, me and my buddy Mike, and if you're watching this, Mike, love you, bro. He got me a job at this polishing factory, you know, and I was like, okay, and I worked there for 18 years. My boss was really cool, man, like really cool. Love the guy, Larry. He passed away a couple few years back. They hired in this other Yahoo, and me and him didn't like each other right off the bat, you know. And I'm like, dude, I don't like you, and I don't respect you because you don't you don't even know what this job is, you know, and you're trying to tell us how to do it. And he's like, feelings mutual, blah blah blah. So he ended up firing me over a no call no show because I overslept by like 15 minutes, not very long, you know. And I was like, oh, that's great, man, thanks. But every year for Christmas, they give you a $500 check after taxes. It was like 370. I'm like, all right. Well, since Kara's dad, back when I was in elementary school, gave me a present, it changed Christmas for me. You know, and since I got this $370 that I never had before, I'm like, here. I'm going to take $100 of it every year and go donate to whatever charity I want to. And I did. And then I'd pick out a friend and a friend that had kids, and I'd give them $50 of it too, and be like, "Here you go. Go get them presents." And they're like, "Bob, we don't need you to do this." And I'm like, I'm not asking. Take this money. And then I decided one year, I'm like, I'm gonna go to Walmart and people watch. I'm gonna give somebody this $100 bill. And I found this lady, that had a couple kids, and her son was like, "Mommy, let me get this," and she's like, "No, we can't afford it." So I'm like, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I talk to you over here?" Took her aside, said, here's $100, Merry Christmas. And she's like, "I can't take this." And I'm like, "I'm not asking. Here, take it." And she's like, "No." So I'm like, "All right, but." So I hold it up. I grabbed a lighter and I'm like, "If you don't take it, I'm gonna burn this right in front of you." And she's like, "Yeah, okay." And went to walk away, and I started this damn thing on fire. I'm like, "I'm not playing." And she's like, "Oh my god!" And starts like patting it out and taking it in, which made her cry, which then made me start crying. Big old savvy guy I am. For 5'6", 118 pounds. Yeah, big. But yeah, so them are my top four Christmas stories. And now for the New Year's. Back in '09, me, Mike, my buddy Brian, Harvey, and myself, the four of us decided we're going to go down to Florida. Um, New Year's Day, the Wisconsin Badgers, where I'm from Janesville, Wisconsin, if I didn't mention that. They were playing uh, Tennessee in Raymond James Stadium, and I'm a Buccaneer fan. I used to be a Packer fan until Brett Favre threw the game against the Broncos because he honestly said he wanted Elway to win the Super Bowl before the game. They had the game locked, and Favre throws the ball to the defender, steps all the way, bam, Denver wins. I take off my jersey, my hoodie, my hat, throw it all in the garbage. Some guy's like, "Hey, can I have that?" I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead, garbage digger," and I was just fucking with him. Um, But yeah, so the Wisconsin Badgers on New Year's Day are playing at Raymond James Stadium where the Buccaneers play. So we're like, "Dude, this is gonna be so cool!" And let's go to Florida. And we did. The day before New Year's Eve, we started driving, and when we left, it was negative 17 degrees and snow mounds everywhere. And when we got down to Florida, 22 and a half hours later, I never wanted to see that van ever again after this trip, and I haven't. Um, so yeah, so we got all this going on, and we get down there, and it's 67 degrees, man. And like the four of us all jump out, and we're stripping our clothes off, and people are walking by looking at us like we're crazy because they're used to it being really hot, like a lot hotter than 67. But me and my friends just came from negative 17 degrees, so we're like, "Hey, man, we're getting in shorts and all this." We get down there, and like, "All right, we need to take a nap." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So we all take a nap, get up, and we're like, "All right, let's go around. Like, let's check out Florida." And I didn't know Florida has palm trees, and I was so excited. Like, I jumped up and I was like, "I want to touch a palm tree!" Like, just retarded excited. So yeah. Um, well, we found this Ybor city. It's called Ybor, or it's spelled Ybor city, and it's nothing, just a stretch of bars. And in between, like every fourth bar, they've got like a little pizza joint, where you can grab something to eat and then just keep going. And like that, to me, that is my best New Year's Eve story. We spent it in Coyote Ugly, which was fun. They had hooks on the ceilings, and there are signs for women saying, if if you throw your bra up there and it gets caught, then you get a free shot. But if you miss, you have to pay $30. And there's this lady standing at a pedestal, um, you know, standing there, and I forgot where I was going with this. ADD. I'm sorry. But yeah, so she had this big bustier on, pushing her boobs right out of the thing, and she had two big bouncers on each side of her with a bucket, saying, "Every time you look at my boobs, you have to tip me $1." She must have got me for like $100, man. I mean, seriously. But yeah, so yeah, New Year's Eve partying up. Next day, we went to the Badger game. The Badgers lost. If they would have just kicked a field goal at halftime, then they would have won the game at the end. But they lost by like 2 points, I think. One or 2 points they lost because they didn't kick that field goal. They tried to go for a bomb, didn't get it. So yeah, so the thing is we could only stay for 24 hours. We drove 22 and a half hours to stay 24 hours and then had to turn around and drive back. Now I couldn't sleep in vehicles while they're rolling. So on the way down, I was awake for 21 hours. On the way back, um, my buddy Mike starts driving, and he drives all the way to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I live in Tennessee now, so not too far out from Chattanooga. So yeah, that's my New Year's story. So all right, thanks for listening, you guys. This is part one, by the way. Much more to follow. Thanks.